October the 12th, 2025. Guys, another beautiful day in the southeast if you're in Mississippi and Alabama. Once you get a little further east than that, it starts changing quite a bit. Of course, you can see where the clear weather is. We've got a nor'easter going on up in New York and through this area, and you've got this low pressure setting right now off the North Carolina coast. Guys, you're getting 15 to 20 foot seas. You're getting tropical storm force winds. Again, they're not calling it that. Up here, it's called a northeaster, and there's storm warnings all up and down the East Coast. And this area is being a little bit underwatched, if you ask me, because it's not that wet here, but the winds are really pushing up some pretty rough weather. We're going to look at some webcams. First, let's look at the infrared. Now, South Carolina, you're getting most of the moisture. Some's drifting down into Georgia now. But this area is dry right now. The moisture, you can tell it. We'll take a look at some of these northeastern beach webcams also. A lot of moisture pushing out into the North Atlantic. But the big deal, again, guys, you've got waves crashing in. Some of those coastal houses are falling in that area. They're telling all the boaters to get in ashore. If you can't, you make sure you're anchored down good. And they're talking about big vessels. If you're in a little vessel, an anchor's not going to do you any good. When you see some of the beach cams, you'll understand why. Now, I think it's a result, and I mentioned it maybe a month ago. I said the hurricanes are way out of whack, and that's going to throw off the going into the winter. More storms, more moisture. You remember that? And the hurricanes that we've seen since then, tropical storms have turned right up into the central Atlantic and moved over back towards the east. You can see here. But right now, you're getting almost hurricane force winds and waves along the coast. But when the weather gets colder, that's going to do what? You know what it's going to do. It's going to turn to ice and snow and knock out a lot of power. And right now, a lot of the northeast is in incredibly high power bills. And taking a very wide look, you still got some storms coming off of Africa, but everything is turning up and moving back towards Africa, basically, if you look at it. Now, the Gulf looks good, very cool, dry air in this area. I couldn't complain about this day if I thought about it for weeks. This is a beautiful day here. You guys along the East Coast, maybe you need some of the moisture that you're going to get. You sure don't need the beach erosion and the damage. And you got quite a bit of flood warnings out along the coast there too. And switching to infrared, you guys in maybe the very southeastern section of Arizona is about to get some moisture, but New Mexico, you may get quite a bit. So if you're in some type of little valley or where your stream is, you don't want to be in a flood zone right now because that is tropical moisture moving in to Mexico now. So you're going to get a good bit, guys, and you can tell it's going to trail through Texas. It's already starting and move right up along with the system. So we're going to have, now what may happen is if this dry system that we're seeing here, it may take a lot of the moisture out by the time it gets to the central U.S. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But one of the things, guys, I'm talking about the power bills in the Northeast, and we've heard for several years now how much damage to the environment those offshore windmills do. They're huge. You can't do anything with them once they break down. They're so big. They're destroying the oceans. They're throwing the whales off. They're even throwing radar off. And what it is, the politicians that are guilty of pushing all of that during the Biden administrations, plural, they see it all collapsing. So they're having to subsidize their cost by increasing your power bills for their political gains. And that's why we went solar here about 10 years ago. And we're going to stay solar. We're not tied to a grid. And we built it up. We didn't buy it all at one time. We built it as we could afford it. But guys, we still are on the grid, but our solar system is not. Power bills are not that high. They are rising here in Mississippi, but they're not as high as they are in some other places. But since Biden got into office, in those 4 years, we went from 7 cents a kilowatt hour, I think, to 14. So that's doubling our power bills under Biden. The beach bunny, well, it's actually the demon Obama running things. We're trying to break away from that, but they're fighting tooth and nail. You can see it in every level. Now let's go up into the Outer Banks, guys. This is, I think, the Sunset Pavilion is what it says there, and we've watched it in almost every East Coast hurricane. And there's not much difference here, if you're asking me. These storm warnings go from the beach way offshore. I'll show you some of that. And look at this. And I was looking at it a little earlier before the rain had set in quite so heavily. And these guys were getting sprayed. You can almost see it now with the wave splash. This is a very tall pier. They're talking 15, 22-foot seas offshore, 50 knot to 60 knot winds. You're talking very strong tropical force. The gust would put you in a Cat 1, but these are very powerful. Again, Sunset Pavilion, you guys up in that area know where it's at, but look offshore. And this pier is well off the ground, or off the water level. Watch that for just a second. They're paying in and out like you just saw. But these guys are getting wet now. It doesn't look like, well, it's changed a little bit since this morning. A lot of people were still in shorts and things, but this rain is kind of getting a little cool, I imagine. It looks like it's coming from north to south or left to right with the wind if you watch it and the rain going through there. Now, this is where that low pressure is, but once you get up into New Jersey and that area, guys, it's just as bad, even though it's far away from the rotation. And they're calling it a nor'easter. Again, this winter is going to be something to pay attention to because the intertropical convergence zone has shifted very far north. That shifted the hurricanes north into the Atlantic, going backwards towards Europe. And it has shifted what's happening here because now we didn't get the cooling we needed. So the oceans are still trying to wind up. You saw the that low pressure system setting off of North Carolina just in the beginning of the video. That's because the waters are still too warm. Now let's go north. This is Ocean City, New Jersey, and I think this is called the Bob's Grill and 14th Street Fishing Piers, their YouTube channel. But you got the same thing going that far up the East Coast. So guys, you prepare for winter. You got power bills that are going to be piling up on you. And it's going to be cold. And we hope that we do not have a shortage. But I'll end this on a little bit of good news. The CDC, Friday afternoon, I guess after everyone got off work, got handed a lot of pink slips. And Trump had warned that it's pretty funny that the Democrats are not going to sign up on the budget thing and the government shutting down. We've all seen that, right? Well, he said, look, it's going to affect the Democrats first because there's so many Democrats in different places that were placed there in prior administrations. And so what he did, I think 400 people at the Center for Disease Control got their final notice, not a furlough, a final notice, and they started at the top with the scientists and the engineers and the people that write the reports. All of them came back fake, remember? When Trump got back in, we started seeing, and really right before that, a lot of reports coming out about the damage that was caused by the CDC. Well, he cut them, and they are crying. You can look it up. CDC loses many jobs, and Trump said, I told y'all that I'm going to start with the Democrats, and he has. And really, the CDC is one of the most evil places in the world besides the synagogue of Satan in Rome. And it really is. You think about all the lives that have been lost through not just the roll up your sleevers, but the trials and the tests and the lies. And you saw what Kennedy's saying now, that we went from 1 in, 12,000 kids with paralyzing diseases and things like that. Now we're maybe 12. 1 out of 12 or 1 out of 14 now are getting these diseases since they started the vaccines. But stupidity never ends regardless of the party you're in. And we're seeing it on both sides, to be honest with you. But you guys in the Northeast, this is just a precursor of what's going to happen. Now, if at least it is bringing some cool down to the area. You can tell that by the spin further south. So that's a good sign. But if it gets much colder on you guys, this is going to become very bad, because you're going to have freezing trees, freezing power lines, freezing roads and bridges and shutdowns. And right now, we're not seeing them on this webcam, but on some of the broadcasts, some of the buildings are collapsing just like we saw in hurricanes. So you guys up all the way along the East Coast, pay very close attention to this. And we're going to look at the National Weather Center warnings before we stop the video. But prepare for some type of backup power this winter if you don't already have it. Just pay attention. Now you can see where your storm area is all the way from southern Florida up to the very tip of the northeast coast. And so the purple areas, guys, are storm warnings. Then you've got hurricane force wind warnings in some areas, and even the winter weather advisories, gale warnings. But the winter is moving from here. You can see it all through the northwest into California. Here's your moisture that's coming off Mexico and that tropical system there. You're already getting some flood watches and warnings in Arizona, but remember, this is going to move over New Mexico very soon. Again, you're seeing that winter is approaching, and this is just going to become more of a problem on our power grid. And you cannot deal with freezing weather with the power lines down because of ice and make it if you don't have backup heat. That's my main concern about this entire video. I can see it happening now, and I can see it happening on the news. You're also going to see flooding and really cold flooding waters in places like the New York subways and all that we see. We've been seeing the beach erosion all summer, even without a major impact, a direct impact. And right now, that the system that's spinning off of South Carolina, guys, is about as close as any of them have come. You know it, and maybe that's a good thing. But where it is spinning is still in the warmer waters of what's called the Gulf Stream, coming out of the Gulf of America. So guys, prepare. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't wait till you can find those necessary items. Remember, every winter we talk about, solar panels. We talk about wood burning heaters. We talk about the Mr. Buddy heaters that has the little green canisters. And there's an adapter hose for those little buddy heaters that you can hook a 5-gallon bottle to, the larger ones like you see on a barbecue grill. And you can get it from the same place. I think I got mine from Home Depot. And that seems to be maybe the cheapest place. You can find them a little cheaper, but make sure it's an original. But those things are lifesavers. I mean, you can cut them on with a flick of your wrist. You got the little electric starters on them, and you can put one in a big room, get everybody in there. Maybe you want to get 3 or 4 of them. But again, if you're going to use it a lot, and if you're going to be going through a long winter, get the adapter hose that allows it to, you don't have to use the little green bottles. You can use the big ones. But we're watching it, guys. This is a heads up. Be safe.